Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
You've been through so much, like for instance, the 2016 Grey Cup. How hurt were you? Because I'm sitting there watching the game, getting ready to watch it all on TSN, like, Henry's got a knee injury, right? And we're like, oh, my God. How bad was it that day?
Oh, it was bad, honestly. It was bad. Even leading up that week, I was constantly getting treatment on my knee, and I just knew something wasn't right. But it was unfortunate that in the game, on the best surface possible, playing on grass, which players always welcome, that's when everything just kind of went awry during the pregame warmups, and I felt a pop in my knee. And we all know, for those who've experienced just a slight cartilage tear, when it happens, you know right away. And I'm thankful for the doctors and the staff with the Ottawa Red Blacks at the time, and the Ottawa nurses from the city of Ottawa, who came together and were able to come up with some concoction and inject it into my knee and give me some painkillers. But regardless of Alex Singleton and Micah Johnson and those guys hitting me left and right during that game, I couldn't feel it. So I could, I would look them in the eye when they would say, "Hey, boom!" I know that had to hurt. I'd say, "Guys, I can't even feel it right now." But it felt good. It kind of put the icing on the cake for me to be able to go there and do what I needed to do, just to finish my career off in the right way. But trust me, my knee was all jacked up, and that's the reason why, for me, if we had to play another period in overtime, it would have been tough for me to survive that, because by the end of that game, my knee was completely locked out due to the amount of swelling that was in my left knee.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
I was fascinated last week that Jerry was pounding Egg McMuffins like it was his job and dosing them with salt because he didn't care because he's 80.
How about that?
So what better, shrimp cocktail or Egg McMuffin? Don't waste our time. It's Egg McMuffin all day. And don't get me started about those puny little cocktail rings that you buy. They're disgusting. Egg McMuffin's good anywhere. That's right.
It's the Rod Pedersen Show.
I actually had one this morning, and it was terrific. Welcome to the RP Show, everybody, on a very exciting day. I feel like it's our first show post-football season, although it's not really either. It's Hump Day, episode number 1433 of your favorite daytime sports talk show. There he is. He is the Moose. Very clear who I'm cheering for as the Four Nations Face-Off Hockey Tournament opens tonight in Montreal, Quebec. Moose, what are you rocking today? You're cheering for all of Canada, too, I guess. That's the closest you could get to Canada, huh?
The Canada games. I got the Canada games on. So, it's the colors weren't red and white that year, but it's still Canada, and we're still excited for the game tonight.
Mike Richards is the guest today, the inimitable broadcaster, not former Los Angeles Kings forward, the iconic broadcaster Mike Richards, coming up in hour two. That's all you need to know, folks. Let's get into the Quick Six show horn and fire it up with what we got going on today.
Right on.
There was no show yesterday because our studio wasn't available. That's okay. I dealt with a lot of complaints, but that's actually a good thing. If people didn't notice that we weren't on the air or they weren't complaining at all, that would be worse. I was okay to take a day to myself, had lunch with Johnny O. Life's good. Bob's your uncle. But to today now.
Bob's your uncle.
The big story is this. Jordan Bennington will be in net when Canada opens the Four Nations face-off against Sweden tonight in Montreal. Darren, let's stop for a second. It's an NHL-sponsored hockey tournament, okay? Like the old Canada Cups and the old World Cups. The reason I have to explain that to people, there's a lot of people watching. We're on the air in 32 U.S. states that don't even know what the hell this is. And I feel like there's a lot of people in Canada that don't either if you're not a hardcore hockey fan. I feel like only the hardcore hockey fans know this is going on, and they're very excited. I'm going to a party here tonight. Brenton, Wellington, Florida is having a party for us to watch Canada-Sweden tonight. So for the hockey people, they're into it. Everybody else, well, that's the poll, Darren. The poll for EMJ Marketing today is, what's your excitement level for the Four Nations face-off? EMJ Marketing, of course, will provide the perfect keynote speaker for your event. Look up Joe at emjmarketing.com. By the way, our dance card's filling up, okay, for this spring and summer, so you better start looking into booking us. High, average, or not at all? What's your excitement level? before you vote, Darren, here's the results so far. 38% say, average excitement level. 38% say, not at all. And 24% say hi. And I'm in that. I'm very excited for this hockey tournament. And all of my friends are too. How about you?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I'm excited. Put me in the, excitement level is high. It only just got there this week, but I see the practice now. I see the photos, the line combinations. You mentioned Jordan Binnington's going to start. Excitement's high, man. I can't wait for them to drop the puck tonight.
Philip Gustafsson gets the start for Sweden. Thank you, Clark, for informing us of that. But I don't care. Doesn't matter. Canada is the betting favorite to win this thing at BetMGM. I just read that this morning. So everybody settle in. I understand it's the coldest day of the year on the bald Canadian prairies. So why wouldn't we be talking hockey here today on Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show? Pretty damn sure Pat McAfee ain't talking about the Four Nations face-off, even though ESPN is airing it tonight here in the U.S. of A. As I was running this morning, by the way, I did not see Joe Girardi at the gym this morning. I've seen him almost every day. Joe Girardi's ducking me. Joe Girardi's ducking me, the four-time World Series champion Moose. He didn't want to go on any show. He doesn't want to go on any hockey shows. He's just not. Yeah. So I'm getting a kick out of that. But this morning I start running today at LA Fitness. And I as habit, right, I flip over to Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. And he's got Chris Sims with him. And I'm like, I'm tired of hearing about the halftime show. I'm tired of hearing about Kellen Moore going to the Saints. I'm just tired of it. And I flipped over to the NHL radio. And who's on there but Gordy Stellick and my boyfriend, Mike Johnson, talking about Canada, Sweden tonight. Yeah, it was the perfect finish to my run, half-hour just pregame show. And Scotty Laughlin's going to be doing an hour-long pregame show tonight. And then Steve Coolius, my old buddy from The Score, is going to do the play-by-play with Anthony Stewart on the NHL channel tonight. Like let's go, baby. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get rid of football for a little while. Mind you, that's our next topic. But one of theirs tonight was, one of their things was, what are you looking forward to tonight? And I think you and I talked about this on Monday. Like, what do you want to see or what are you curious? And I just want to see the compete level. You know, Sidney Crosby's going to be 10 out of 10. You know, Nathan McKinnon's going to be 11 out of 10. But really, what's the compete level going to be? Like, for instance, who scores first? How long is it going to take for the first shot on goal for either side? You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to be looking forward to. Nothing real intricate. You?
No, I'm with you on that. Like, how are they approaching this? What does it look like? Is this just a fun mid-season thing? And is this more of an exhibit? Like, from the player's standpoint, is this going to be more of an exhibition, as a tune-up for the Olympics in February? Or is this going to be what really matters and coming out on top, and you're going to sacrifice to win this thing? I think, the Crosbys, you got no problem. They're going to compete. Every time they put that sweater on, it means everything. But beyond that, I'm really curious to see what type of, compete level we have tonight.
Okay. At my peril, I will dip my toe into the comments before we go any further, okay? On streaming and the text line, 902-518-3033, the text line for Progressive Insurance. Jeff, the Stampeders fan, writes in. He says, I may check the score of the game sometime tonight, but my eyes will still be glued to the CFL free agency tracker. John in Edmonton writes in, and he says, Rod, lots of people think this is just a gimmick of a tournament and are not going to be watching it. I'll have to watch on my phone as I'm at a hockey game at Rogers Place tonight. I know, baby. God's team, the Regina Pats, were at the Edmonton Oil Kings tonight. You thought I forget. You thought I forgot, didn't you? Nope. Dayton writes in and says, morning from frigid Speedy Creek, Sask. I certainly missed you guys yesterday. No Pat McAfee, no RP show. I was lost. I don't know what to say about that other than my apologies. If you missed off the start, I said our studio wasn't available, so we didn't have a show. I was actually okay with it. And I opened up the Progressive Insurance text line, and it was full of texts, not happy. But can I say it wasn't my decision? Will that get me off the hook? Jenna. Okay, Jenna in Southern California writes in and says, this will be my first time watching the Four Nation. It's going to be the first time for all of us. So the NHL has done a great job putting together a media package. They've created a separate tab at the NHL.com. I'm not sure if the fans have the access to it, but the media does. It's got the list, the history of all of these Canada Cups. Those Canada Cups, I didn't realize, do go back to the 70s. My earliest recollection is the 80s. Gretzky, Telemieux, Barry Lemieux. They didn't invite the world this time. It's only 4 countries. Nobody's really explained that. I'm assuming it's for political reasons, Darren. Why'd they pick 4? Have you heard? I've not heard.
No, I haven't heard officially. That's my guess too. Political reasons. And also, those are the 4 big powers right now. I mean, we can talk about Russia for sure, and they would normally be a part of this conversation. But trying to do this thing quick too, and not take too much out of the NHL season by adding all these other teams and added games and all the rest. Trying to keep this thing condensed to like 10 days.
Rich in Edmonton writes, and he says, I was not into the Four Nations one bit, but now that it's here, let's go. I knew that would be the case. Like last week, we were talking about what's the excitement level, and people weren't even thinking about it at all. It was Super Bowl week. I was like, just wait till it gets here, and you're going to be hype. And I feel like that's where we are. Kevin the Medium writes in from Calgary. He says, we are hosting a special podcast during the second intermission. I'm looking forward to an exciting, quick tournament. John in Edmonton goes on to say, Rod, you could have done the show from your car like some of your guests have, or a remote location yesterday. That's right, John, I could have. Tony in Cochrane, Alberta writes, and he says, good morning, squad. I feel like I got stood up on a date yesterday. Ha, ha, ha. These things happen. Maybe if you weren't listening, John in Edmonton, I was happy to have a me day. And just so you know, and Darren went and broadcast high school hockey, which is very exciting. A 100-year tradition. You can read about it at rodpeterson.com. Darren's latest column. They played in the old Maple Leaf Gardens. I know you were going to move on from that, but we all had things we were doing yesterday. And I had lunch with Johnny O. Johnny O. It was so great at the Jamaican place. Okay, I'm going to move on. And yeah, I got to clear out these text messages from the Progressive Insurance text line, 902-518-3033. They're all very upset there was no show yesterday. Let's move on. Point 2 is very simply Super Bowl leftovers. I've got some notes written here. Halftime. I will say this. I bet you the NFL was relieved that Philadelphia won that Super Bowl. And you knew that I was going to bring this up because we talked about it a bit before the show. I'm getting my hair cut yesterday from Melissa. She's a pretty tough chick, okay? She looks like Jennifer Lopez. She's done hard time. She won't care that I tell you that. She'll tell the world. My hairdresser, Melissa's done hard time. So she's cutting my hair yesterday. And she's like, so what do you think about the fact that the Super Bowl was rigged? I'm like, what do you mean it was rigged? Everybody thought it was going to be rigged for the Chiefs. She's like, yeah, so they rigged it for the Eagles so that it didn't look like they were going to rig it. No, that doesn't happen, Melissa. And she goes, well, I heard that they fired 4 referees. I'm like, they probably did, but they fire referees every year. It doesn't have anything to do with games being rigged. They're not rigged. She's like, well, I heard the AFC Championship, the Chiefs and the Bills, they were going to play it again because of those bad calls. I'm like, Melissa, that's never, ever happened. That's never happened. As you said, she needs to get different news sources. But this is the scary crap that floats around. And that's why, Darren, I'll go to my grave. That phrase, perception's reality, drives me freaking berserk because perception is not reality. Reality's reality. The reality is the games aren't fixed. Perception is not reality. That'll be like chapter 79 in my book.
I know, man. It is so scary that anybody with a smartphone is now the media, which I understand trust with the media. I get all that. But now everybody with a phone and access to the internet is the media. And you really got to know what you're doing and trust what you're reading. And anyways, I mean, harmless, I guess, for her to go around thinking it was rigged. And I mean, people do read the National Enquirer from the grocery store right by the till there, and they believe that there's mermaids in sardine cans and, it's floating around on the street gutter. But I don't know. I don't know what to tell you because it's dangerous.
Well, Colt in San Diego writes in and says the reports came out that it was the most watched Super Bowl, 127 million people on average. Saw that too. It peaked in the second quarter, 133 million viewers that carried into the halftime show. And so any thought of it being rigged didn't deter anybody from watching. 1 in 3 Americans watched. I think I saw 8 million watched in Canada. That's double, I think, what the Grey Cup was. And, I'm also getting a little tired of the Kendrick Lamar thing and the halftime and the hipsters going, well, you don't understand. You didn't like it because you don't understand. He has this rivalry with Drake. I'm like, cut it. I don't care about his rivalry with Drake. I don't care. The music wasn't that good. The dancing was cool, and how they filled that Monte Carlo with 87 people was cool, but it was not great music. Okay? I'm a 52-year-old white guy. I'm sorry that I'm not into the schoolyard rivalries between two rappers. I don't care. I'm a little busy with stuff that actually matters. Okay? So I'm a little surprised the NFL would want to. Melissa, my hairdresser, she knows that world. So she got into the fight and why they don't get along and blah, blah. She's like, she knew it all. I'm like, I don't care. Anyways, that's all mine. What's yours? We have 2 minutes. What are your Super Bowl leftovers before? And I'll tell everybody after the break, CFL free agency wrap, NBA, MLB, pitchers and catchers reporting. Okay, go ahead.
No, but that's what I said on Monday about the halftime show, right? It was like dropping into season 4 of The Sopranos. And, we don't know who the characters are, what the storylines are. We don't know any of it. And the show's not that good. What makes those shows great is if you follow it all the way through. So it was really good for the people who were into it and understood the backstory. And for the 90% who had no idea, it was over their head and it was bad. So I get it. That's still my Super Bowl leftovers. I've been watching Travis Kelce talk about letting his teammates down and should have been better at leadership and all the rest, and uncertain about his future. I've seen that. I've fallen more in love with A.J. Brown after his, post-game media and all the rest, and the former Tennessee Titan receiver. So those were all great stories. And we'll see. Like, I still talking about the Chiefs and will they be back and all the rest, but it's official the offseason now. I'm with you. Football is over until the draft in April.
We got some good stuff from the audience. Adrian Rainey writes in. He's my good bud from West Palm Beach, Florida. He hosts the Rainy Day podcast, and he says conspiracies are at an all-time high these days. LOL. And I'm like, I'm just going to quote a friend of mine. You know him. He's from here, Darren. But he says, you can't blame people for thinking games are rigged when elections are rigged. He said it.
How about that?
Jenna from Southern California writes in, and she says, bring rock music to the halftime show. The main thing about all of this is we're never going to agree on what it should be. I saw a list the other day of the top 100 rock bands of all time, and the Rolling Stones weren't even in the top 5. I'm like, what the hell is this? So we're never going to agree on what we want. To be honest, the CFL getting Keith Urban for the halftime in 2019 in Calgary is probably the greatest of everything because he appeals to everybody. You know what I mean? What is he? I don't know. It just looks good. Sounds good. Perfect. We're going to take a timeout. Mike Richards coming up in hour 2. We're live here on the Game Plus television network across all of Canada and 32 U.S. states, and podcasts, wherever the best podcasts are found.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
That is indeed a look at our studio here. North Federal Highway, Boca Raton, Florida. By the way, it may take weeks, months, or even years to get the call to be a stem cell donor. Saving lives takes commitment and dedication, just like being a hockey player. Give hope to patients in Canada. Register online at blood.ca/getswabbed and spread the word amongst your family and friends. The Moose is with us. The Progressive Insurance text line is open for business. 902-518-3033. And Jonathan's watching in Vancouver, and this guy's got some pizzazz moves. He's got some panache. He's the guy that said he wasn't looking forward to Super Bowl because his wife was going to invite all her friends over. They're going to spill their drinks and food all over the place. It's going to be horrible. He writes in, he says, Jonathan from Vancouver here. Help! I'm having an existential crisis. I'm going to be cheering for Brad Marchand for the first time.
Spicy. Oh, no.
You know, before we go down the road of the other topics, I think because it is Four Nations Face-Off, and we spent like 12 minutes on it in the first segment. I feel like we didn't even talk about it at all. This is the first international competition since 2016. This is special stuff. It's been a decade since we've been able to celebrate something like this. And look at all that's happened since. You know, and the Kachuk brothers are going to play together, and what he just said, how do you cheer against the guy that you hate? And you've hated him since 2011 when your Canucks lost to his Bruins, and that was a long-ass time ago, too. What are the weird, mind-bending things coming into the Four Nations face-off. Besides, like, that's a good example of one. How do you cheer for a guy that you hate? But you have to.
I know. That's a great example. And we see it. And then we, see, I don't know, you want to say the Leafs and Oilers don't like each other that much, but Mitch Marner is going to play on a line with Connor McDavid likely, or Sam Bennett and Connor McDavid after the little battles they had in the playoffs last year. And I know they were really good friends from years ago, but you're going to have to shelve all these things. Sam Reinhart's going to be on that line too, and they were just playing against each other in the Stanley Cup final, McDavid and Reinhart. So you're going to shelve all this stuff, shelf it all, and hope that you can put it aside. It's going to be fun. And then I wrote about it in the column. When the USA plays Sweden, you're going to see Elias Pedersen of the Canucks against JT Miller of the Canucks. They had this little feud apparently in the locker room, resulting in JT Miller getting traded to the Rangers. Now they're going to play against each other for what I think is the first time. So that's going to be fun to see who shows up in that series, in that game. Is there trash talk back and forth, any physical play? Some different storylines to follow.
Well, I feel like the fans going to take this way more seriously than the players, because the players, more than ever, they all get along. They don't hate each other. I honestly don't think they hate each other. Not like they used to literally hate each other.
Yeah.
Okay, 80s Battle of Alberta stuff. Guarantee you they don't hate each other like they used to. Fans, I get. Canadian Sasko writes in, he says, "Hi, Pastor Pedersen. Am amped for Canada versus Sweden tonight. If you and Moose want to join, I am currently breaking all my IKEA furniture and tossing out all my ABBA record. A-O, Canada, go." Signed, Canadian Sasko. For those that don't know, when the World Jays were held in Regina and Saskatoon back in 2010, Hockey Canada felt that they're going to invent a cheer. We're going to invent a cheer. It's going to catch
Canada
on.
go wasn't good enough.
No, go, Canada, go. Not good enough. A-O, Canada, go. Didn't happen. Good memory, though, Canadian Sasko. Brian in Hudson's Bay writes in, and he says, "No interest in the hockey. I will watch the Scotties ahead of that. God's team? I guess God doesn't want anyone to watch his team. Sounds like they draw flies. Can't wait until the NHL starts up again." Holy smokes, Brian. Cheer up. Oh, what a load of horse pucky that was. Brian, cheer up, guy. Do we need to send somebody?
That's minus 40. It's looking bleak.
People they're pissed. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hang on, Ramuski. Just so you know, everybody, we are live on the Game Plus television network, as I said, streaming live, various platforms, and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found. The Toronto Raptors don't have much time to celebrate Tuesday night's 106-103 road win over the Philadelphia 76ers. Raptors host the Eastern Conference leading Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. How about this one? Pitchers and catchers begin on-field work for most Major League Baseball clubs in Arizona and Florida today. However, the Blue Jays are one of a handful of teams that start spring training Thursday. It'll be Toronto's first look at veteran right-hander Max Scherzer, who signed a one-year $15.5 million U.S. contract with the club earlier this month. The reason I raced through that is we're going to bring it back to the Canadian Football League free agency wrap-up here a little bit, because this is where CFL fans come to talk. Let's be honest, we all know that. And free agency officially opened on Tuesday. We weren't on the air yesterday. I endorsed that move. I didn't come up with it, but I was okay with it. I see people saying they were glued to their phones, going through who's signing. I just didn't want to be glued to my phone. I'm like, at the end of the day, tally it all up. We'll post a story at rodpeterson.com, and that's what we did. And so now covered the league intimately for 20 years. What do we do in free agency? The first days, like the first wave. The next 2-3 days are the second wave. And then day 4 and on into the spring is the third wave, where if you didn't get a call and you're a free agent, you're probably not getting a call. And I think that BC, I think, well, you said that you were going to do a little more research this morning before we went to air, so I don't know who you feel won Tuesday. I think it's the BC Lions signing Jeremiah Masoli. That happened. And Micah Awe, star linebacker. But that's me. I feel BC won day one of free agency. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those were the two big signings. Largely, nothing jumps out off the page to me because most of the work was done in the pre-free agency period, the pre-negotiation window, or whatever you want to call it. And then we got some, official contracts that came out yesterday, things we already knew. So my phone wasn't going off with notifications yesterday of signings. It wasn't going crazy. But those two, yeah, were probably the biggest ones. Masoli goes to BC to be the backup to Nathan Rourke, and I like that move. You got somebody who's a veteran. He's had some experience being a backup too and playing, obviously. And I'm a big Jeremiah Masoli fan, so I think they got a pretty good guy there. And Mike Awe, too. I think we're big fans of his. So I would give BC the win for day one.
Ted in Red Deer writes in, and what up, Ted? We haven't seen you in a while. He says, is the Big O still up and running for a Montreal Grey Cup? Interestingly enough, Cardinal Ryan, who is also an ordained minister like myself in Saratoga, New York, writes in, he says, I wish, Ted, the roof on the Big O is being repaired again. Yeah, but they still have events there last I knew. As a matter of fact, the last time I was even in the area, and it's been 6 years, but AC/DC was playing a concert there. It's really, really sad to the point that I might get emotional when I think about the Big O. It was such a big part of my childhood, watching games there on French CBC or even English CBC with Dave Van Horn. And then walking in there, even though the Alouettes weren't playing there, but they did, oddly enough, they practiced there, but they didn't play there. And the place being covered in cobwebs and just looking around, remembering Tim Wallach and Andre Dawson, the Hawk, Vladdy Sr. But it's not dead. There'll be games there again. I see the CFL fans are like bashing each other here in the comments. That's fine, but we're not getting into that. What I will say, BC, Darren and I agree, won Tuesday. Edmonton, I think overall, has won the last 2.5 weeks. For the uninitiated, for years we had that February date, usually around February 11th. That's what happened here. And it was a big build-up to that, but they've changed it. So there's a week before that date that teams can make offers, and they call it the pre-free agency period. It's very confusing, but I've seen articles where the football people have said, this is working better than what we had before. You've probably seen those comments, Darren. So I'm like, okay, I'm on board with that. But my point on this is you better watch out, teams in the West, because if BC and Edmonton have one free agency, that's not good news for Sask, Winnipeg, Calgary. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not, because, for teams to move up, other teams have to move down. And, I mean, Calgary can't move down. Boom. But Winnipeg and Sask can move down. We know that was unintentional. And sorry, Calgary. But, they're going to move up. And so Winnipeg, for sure, they've lost some players, and they're going through a bit of a transition. We're going to call it a retooling, is what they're hoping, not a rebuilding, because they're hosting the Grey Cup this year. But yeah, and Sask, I think, for the most part, people are pretty confident. But how confident can you be? Because Edmonton's done what they've done. BC's done what they've done. Nathan Rourke's another year, going to be a little more comfortable this year. I think the West is going to be right back to being the Wild West. Last couple of years, it really wasn't. It was the East that was a little bit more intriguing and maybe a little bit of the better division. I think the West might be back this year in terms of being the Wild West and wide open top to bottom.
Michael Wynn in Winnipeg, you know him from Ice Time Sports. His sporting goods store writes in, he says, Winnipeg will be fine. And it's interesting he says that. I'm not worried about Winnipeg. They were in the Grey Cup last year and would have won it if Zach Caleros hadn't sliced his finger. Everybody seems to forget that, and which is fine. But Winnipeg will be fine. But I thought about this with Jordan Binnington this morning. The guys on NHL radio are kind of like, ooh, The Blues haven't been good since 2019. How's Bennington going to be? And I'm sitting there, again, as the goalie guy, saying he's won. He's been there. He's been in the big games. He'll be fine. Winnipeg, they've proven themselves. Mike O'Shea doesn't need to deal with anybody saying he doesn't know what he's doing. Nor Kyle Walters, nor Wade Miller. And that's where I think people get things, to quote Chris Jones, don't get it twisted. Once you're proven, you're proven. I don't need to prove that I can draw numbers, draw clicks, draw views. I don't need to prove it because I've done it. Jordan Bennington doesn't need to prove that he can win big games because he has. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers don't need to prove spit. Who does, though? I'll tell you who does. Sask does. And I don't think they're going to. BC sure the hell does. Does Dave Dickinson? Does he? Honestly, in your mind? I think he does.
Great question. That's a great question today. I don't know if I was ready to answer that one, but I think so. I think so, because after this period that they've been in, you got to prove that you can right the ship, and you don't have to prove anything. You know, if you're Winnipeg, because there's still so much faith and confidence that they know what they're doing, that they can get it right back into a Grey Cup and probably win one again. But with Calgary, we've now reached the point of we're not really sure. I still think that Dave Dickinson can get Calgary back to where they need to be and win, but I think he's in prove it stage now again.
From the audience, Jeff, the Stamps fan, it took 0.08 seconds for him to get revved. So Dave D and Huff aren't proven? Well, number one, Huff doesn't have anything to do with it, so forget about him. And yes, Dave D does, because he hasn't won jack squat since being named general manager and head coach. Ted and Red Deer, Bombers will be fine. Does anyone have more pressure than Nathan Rourke? Yeah. Harris, Trevor. I love how we're weaving back and forth between hockey and football. It makes me so damn happy today. Woo. We'll continue it when we come back. And Mike Richards is going to be with us in hour 2. We are live on Game Plus Television, streaming live and podcasts wherever the best podcasts are found.
How about that?
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house. Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
From cash spiels to Grand Slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
The program is brought to you by Culligan Water. Drink clean, live green, filter your water for a healthier tomorrow. Culligan Water of Regina. Visit CulliganRegina.com. Those Regina Pats are on the road tonight to face the Edmonton Oil Kings. Just throwing that in there. I'm always watching. You think I'm not. Everybody thinks I'm not. I'm watching it all. And the Rough Riders have been quiet in free agency as well, and that's drawn the ire of some fans. The Moose is here as well with me from Toronto. Darren, can I read a quick sports update before we get back to doing whatever the hell we were doing? Yeah? Okay.
Of course.
Kellen Moore is leaving the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles for his first NFL head coaching job with the New Orleans Saints. The 36-year-old Moore will join a Saints organization that's been floundering since the retirement of quarterback Drew Brees and departure of Super Bowl winning coach Sean Payton. The Saints haven't made the playoffs since the 2020 season. Moore has been an offensive coordinator for 6 seasons with Dallas, the Chargers, and the Eagles. And that's my sports update. It's brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. In Landmark Cinemas now, Heart Eyes. Have you seen this, Moose? For the past several years, the Heart Eyes Killer has wreaked havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. This Valentine's Day, no couple is safe. Starring Olivia Holt and Michaela Watkins, Heart Eyes in Landmark Cinemas now. Does that sound like something you might be interested in?
Yeah. It just, I don't know, man. I'm listening to you read that about Heart Eyes, and you're getting so dramatic, and you're rubbing your fingers together. And I just kept thinking that this is like, I'm listening to a cartoon, The Simpsons, and you're voicing a character in The Simpsons about some really, scary dude. So maybe a cartoon voiceover is in your future.
I can do a lot of things. Well, I've done everything. Hang on, let me grab my telephone. You want to hear a funny story? I could bring up stories about Chris from the Bronx every bloody day. I was at his house on Sunday. And we were talking about the youth generation, Moose. And he says, remember how when we were kids, and this wouldn't probably apply to you nor producer Clark, but it will apply to a lot of our viewers. Our parents and teachers used to say, you need to know your multiplication tables. What are you going to do? Walk around with a calculator in your pocket all the time? Chris is saying this. I'm like, yes, they said that. They said that in New York City where he grew up, and they said it in the small town Saskatchewan. Right? What are you going to do? Walk around with a calculator? Duh. 9 times 9 is 81. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. We can say it forwards, backwards. Now these kids can't even do math, and they don't need to. John from Edmonton writes in and says, story time with Rod Pedersen, the podcast that needs to happen. John, you're watching it. He goes on to say, Rod probably really loved the 1994 Super Bowl halftime that featured Travis Tritt, Tanya Tucker, the Judds, and Clint Black, since it was all country music. Yeah, we need to get back to that. We need to get back to that. Did you know Larry Gatlin and Tanya Tucker are from the same hometown in Texas? I'm just throwing that out there. The poll question today is, what's your excitement level for the Four Nations face-off? And I don't know if this is going to change, Moose. It says a lot about our audience, I think. I don't know what it says. It just says a lot. 40% say average excitement, average. 36% say not excited at all. And only 24% say high. And the reason that surprises me a little bit is because the places that Serena and I go, and even my friends that I'm talking to in Canada, are hockey people that are just frothing. They're having parties tonight. I'm going to one here tonight in Wellington, Florida. The guys in the Panthers press box. We were just up in Chicago. They were all talking about what this is going to mean for who wins this Four Nations face-off. But I feel like it's just hockey people and hockey fans, and that's it. And you would say, duh, well, of course. No, but the Super Bowl pertains to everybody. And is this going to shift as this thing goes along or not?
I don't know. And I think part of it is we don't really know what this means. Like, nobody's got a consensus on what this actually means, even winning this thing. Because you'll have some people who will say, well, it's not really the best because Russia wasn't involved, or, there was no Germany and Slovakia and Kazakhstan and Russia and Belarus and all these other countries. So, what does it really mean? And then Czech Republic and all the rest. And then you look at the Olympics coming up in February. That, I think everybody will be geeked up for the hockey tournament, because that's a little more national pride on the line. It's bigger than hockey. It's all sports. It's all the rest. This was kind of made up. And it's a little bit like we just had the rivalry series, Canada and the U.S. and women's hockey. It took place over a number of games in different markets. And, it's great, but it feels like an exhibition, gearing up for the Olympics. That's the big tournament when it comes to international play. And I think it's the same here. It's the same way we look at the World Hockey Championships. It's a big deal, kind of, but the Olympics is the granddaddy of them all. And now that NHL players are back in that, everything else is second.
It's interesting you say that, because I think we can all remember where we were in certain Olympic moments. 2010, I was watching Canada, USA on the couch at my mom and dad's in Milestone, Saskatchewan. Ryan Miller in goal for USA, Roberto Luongo for Canada, right? 2014, I was watching it at Boston Pizza East, Sochi. The last time there were, and for those, if you know, Boston Pizza East, right? Brent in Wellington, Florida writes in, I'll be at his house tonight. He says, if football wasn't over, I may not be as excited as I am for the Four Nations. Here's the thing. You really got to, and we're up against it for a break here, but you got to give the NHL some credit here. They say this is a cash grab. I'm sure it is. I'm interested to see what the ticket sales are like, what the TV ratings are like. It's a made-up thing, but it's also very special. The All-Star Game, it was here a couple of years ago. It was bad. They still complain about it. We haven't had a tournament like this. There's never been a Four Nations face-off before, but anything like this in a freaking decade, since 2016. So it is special. I think once it gets going, and actually I'm going to tell some more stories how it relates to my past audience and past tournaments like this when we come back. You got to go have a smoke. Have a dart, Moose. We'll see you in hour 2.
Yes. Yeah, then.
He doesn't actually smoke. I'm just saying that. Mike Richards will be with us in hour 2 as well. We'll be right back with a mini overtime after this here on Game Plus TV, streaming live and podcasts wherever the best podcasts are found.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
From cash spiels to grand slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Lots of time here for what's going to be a wonderful segment. And ain't that wonderful, huh? That's where we're broadcasting from, inside that gorgeous facility studio, the Sanctuary Suites here in Boca Raton, Florida. Mini overtime, as I said. We're going to be talking a lot more Four Nations face-off coming up next hour. And then Mike Richards is going to join us, and from what it sounds like, he wants to talk NFL. He's a Bills fan, and he's very upset that it doesn't look like the Bills are ever going to win anything, and they never have. You'd think he'd be used to it. But on this Four Nations face-off and looking at years past, 1996, Canada played the USA in the final in Montreal. I was looking it up today in the media guide the NHL has put forth. Brent from Wellington, Florida. You'll enjoy this. Listen up. I wasn't even the voice of the Rough Riders yet, but I was on my way to being the voice of the Rough Riders, and I was hosting the television show In the Huddle on Access Television. At that time, Cable Regina. 1 hour. Me and Kevin Mason in studio. The backup quarterback for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. No, not the starter. The backup. 1 hour. 7 till 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. And we're going up against Canada versus USA in the World Cup final of hockey. September, whatever the hell date it was. It was the longest hour of both of our lives, me and Kevin Mason. So I went back to look, by the end, 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, Kevin, so you played at Syracuse and you're from West Seneca, New York. Tell me about West Seneca, New York. What's that like? Whoever asks questions like that, me, a 23-year-old kid who really didn't know anything about football. Surprise! Interviewing a guy that never got to play. I'm sweating sitting here thinking about it. This is the longest hour of both of our lives. And here's the thing. Because Saskatchewan is the Alabama of Canada when it comes to football, I think we did have some viewers because we took some calls and some guy called in live and swore about our general manager and called him, and something I can't say here because we were 6-12 this year. But I'm going back and I'm looking at this roster from the 1996 Saskatchewan Roughriders. This was just before you left, Brent, from Wellington, Florida. Bruce Boyko doesn't mean a lot to anybody other than people that from there. Anthony Trahorn, Vincent Donaldson, Ray Elgard, Dan Farthing, Brooks Findlay, Ron Getz, whatever you want, Ron Getz, former Minnesota Viking, the great Marvin Graves. Oh, by the way, Marvin Graves was the second-string quarterback. The Rough Riders were nice enough to send me the third-string quarterback to interview for an hour on a night that nobody was watching and a team that sucked. Scott Pooch Hendrickson, the starting quarterback. Number 6, Warren Jones. He was probably the 20th ranked quarterback in a 8-team league, 9-team league, and he was our starter. Thanks a lot, Ken Austin, who wanted more money and forced a trade to BC. We're over it. Right?
How about that?
Dale Joseph, a defensive back from Houston, Texas, who once told me in the lobby of the Casino Regina when we were doing a radio show there on another day, we don't want to be a farm league to the NFL because then people are going to think we're second rate to the NFL. I'm like, Darren Joseph, who's now a cop in Ottawa. Jimmy Kemp, look him up. Bobby Jurison. Eugene Mikowski. Curtis Mayfield, Paul McCallum, Robert Mims, Don Narcisse. The current executive director of the Canadian Football League Alumni Association, Dwayne Provo. Dan Rashovich. Heath Rylance, whom we call Heater. We're still Facebook friends. Yeah, that was quite. Yeah. I'm getting flashbacks. I got to take a break here. Okay, we'll be right back in hour 2 with Moose. Hope you enjoyed that little walk down Riderville Lane. Mike Richards coming up as well after this break.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. the Create space at IKS.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at iksgameday.com.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
I was fascinated last week that Jerry was pounding Egg McMuffins like it was his job and dosing them with salt because he didn't care because he's 80.
How about that?
So what better, shrimp cocktail or Egg McMuffin? Don't waste our time. It's Egg McMuffin all day. And don't get me started about those puny little cocktail rings that you buy. They're disgusting. Egg McMuffin's good anywhere. That's right.
It's the Rod Pedersen Show.
Here we go, baby. Hour 2 of Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show. We're live on the Game Plus television network. I'll guarantee you that no other channel is talking about the Four Nations face-off like we are today. There's the Moose. He's in Toronto. I am in the South Florida studio. We're streaming live as well as on television and, of course, podcasts. If you're listening to us later, you're welcome. I had a wonderful little trip down memory lane, Moose, before we get into the hockey talk here. And I feel like we're doing our part to get people amped up for the opener of the Four Nations face-off tonight. Canada versus Sweden, 8 p.m. Eastern, Centre Bell. That's French for Bell Center in Montreal. But near the end of hour 1, did you see the story I was telling? 1996, Canada, USA, the final of the World Cup, which was also in Montreal. I was hosting a television show called In the Huddle on Cable Regina, opposite channel for 1 hour with the third-string quarterback of the Rough Riders of a 6-12 team, and he never ever got to play. It was the longest hour of both my life and his life. And it got so bad, I think once I was asking him the name of his childhood pets. I'm like, let's take a call. Bad idea, bad idea. That was the end because there was no delay on the phone line. You know what I'm like? There wasn't a 7-second delay like we had on a radio. It was live. Some guy called in and dropped an F-bomb as it related to our general manager. It was just calamity. Longest hour of my life. That's what I think about when I think about World Cups, which is what this is, but it's the Four Nations face-off. I'm up for anything. I'm not a poo-pooer. Do you think in any way that this is a chintzy money grab like people are saying, which maybe in a way it is? Who cares? We're still going to watch. It's not as good as what they've had, I guess is what I'm trying to land the plane here. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I never would use the term chintzy money grab, but it kind of is like that. I mean, it's an opportunity to everybody wants to own the property, right? So the NHL owns the best on best, not the Olympics, not somebody else, not the IIHF. The NHL does. So it's an event, and they want to make money at it and bring this back. And yeah, it's I'm looking at it as a precursor to the Olympics, and the Olympics will always hold more to me, more value. But it is that until it's not. We'll see what happens tonight. And you'll know, I'll know, we'll all know how we feel when the puck's dropped, when the game's being played, if it matters or if it doesn't matter. We'll know. We'll be able to feel it. We'll know tonight.
Regarding that television show In the Huddle, Rich in Edmonton writes in, he says, I remember watching that show, Rod, when I was in the Big R visiting my Sask relatives. Oh, yeah. I only hosted it for 25 years, a paltry 25 years. Was the original host of it. I think it's still going. I don't know. Ryan in upstate New York says, I still have Game 3 of the 1996 World Cup of Hockey final on VHS. I got to dig it out and save it to digital. Well, you never even thought about it till now, right? And it's interesting because Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff said that this is the greatest collection of U.S. hockey players ever. And I'm like, well, Stephen, don't even think you were alive in 1996, which I dug into the media guide the NHL's put together here. Darcy in Grand Prairie writes, and he says, what is going on with the state of Canadian goaltenders? That is not the topic for today. It's a great discussion, but not for today. Jordan Binnington starts tonight. Sam Montembeault and Naden Hill are the others on the roster, but they're not starting tonight. Okay, so the last time we had a tournament like this, the last three were called World Cup of Hockey, 2016, 2004, 1996. And then there were 5 Canada Cups before that, 1991, 1987, 1984, 1981, and 1976. This is why it's special. It doesn't come around every year. And it's why, as I said off the top of the show, I started listening to Mike Florio this morning in Pro Football Talk, and I was tired of hearing about Kellen Moore to the Saints and Patrick Mahomes and being under pressure and Kendrick Lamar. I'm like, can we take a break? Let's talk some hockey here. So the only time the USA has won this was 1996, Darren, and I'm not even going to put you on the spot because you didn't even have hair on your peaches yet. I'm not going to ask you who the coach was for USA. It was Ron Wilson. The captain was Brian Leach. The 2016 World Cup of Hockey, you probably remember who the captain was for Canada then, 2016, the last one.
Yeah, it would have been Crosby.
Sidney Crosby. Yes. 2004 captain, Mario Lemieux. Oh, and I should say the head coach in 2016 was Mike Babcock. The head coach in 2004 was Pat Quinn. You love Pat Quinn, don't you? Because you're a Leaf guy.
Love Pat Quinn. But I'll be honest, I don't really, 2016 and 04 don't really register in my memory bank. They're not locked away as these sacred events. Not like 02 in the Olympics or 2010 or even 14 are locked away as great Olympic years. These are kind of fillers for me. But then when I look back and hear, you or others talk about the Canada Cup, and we see those clips of Messier and Gretzky and Lemieux, and that seems really special. But in my memory, these don't really rate for me. But yet, I have some recollection of 1996, very little, but some. I can see the U.S. in 1996 in my mind. I can't see 04 or 16. I don't know why.
Pat Quinn from Hamilton, Ontario. For our viewers, the legendary Vancouver Canuck coach and player, right, everybody? And Leafs coach and Oilers coach. I'm just taking a little off-ramp for a second to Storytown. I did an event with Pat Quinn. He's as cool as you think. And he talked about when he was coaching the Leafs. And Ty Domi came into his office, and he's like, Pat, why do you have me on the 4th line? Quinn goes, because I don't have a 5th line.
How about that?
I don't know if you could do that anymore. The guy might throw a fit and leave the player. I don't know. 96, Canada's captain was Wayne Gretzky. And the head coach was Glenn Slats Sather. 91 and 87. Both years, Gretzky was the captain. Mike Keenan was the coach. Both years. It's quite interesting that you say, you have foggy memories of that, or these NHL-sponsored tournaments. In 91, the USA was the runner-up. The captain was Joel Otto, and the head coach was Badger Bob Johnson. And the final was played in Hamilton, Ontario. 87 Canada Cup, which we've referenced many times. To me, the greatest, top 3 international tournaments ever, even though it was NHL sponsored. I watched every flippin' second of the tournament. Probably will this time around, too. The runner-up was Russia. Their captain was Vyacheslav Fetisov. And their head coach was the dreaded Viktor Tikhonov. Wouldn't even ask. It was the year you were born. You wouldn't even know. 84, Larry Robinson was Canada's captain. Glenn Sather was the coach. The runner-ups were Sweden. Captain was Thomas Gradin. And the head coach was Leif Boork. Here's the guys that scored the winning goal for each of these tournaments going back all these years I've just mentioned. In 2016, Brad Marchand scored the cup-clinching goal, whatever the hell, the World Cup clinching goal. Brad Marchand, 2016. 2004, Shane Doan. 1996, how many would get this? Tony Amonte, when USA won it. 91, Steve Larmer for Canada. 87, Mario Lemieux over Belashekin, the Russian goalie. 84, Paul Coffey, personal friend, not a big deal. 1981, when the Soviets won it, Sergei Shepelev. And the winning goaltender was one Vladislav Tretiak. Have you seen videos, by the way? You probably haven't. Have you seen videos of him training by chance?
Training, no. Playing, yes, obviously.
Okay. Well, those Russians, they do the dance where they put the and they kick.
Yeah.
Right? I think they learned that from Tretiak. That guy's ass would make a football player embarrassed. Tretiak just thick and just down to the ground and just doing these squats. Like carrying a very heavy medicine ball. Greatest goalie, they say, of all time. And I'm pretty sure that he was. Never did play in the NHL, but he was the goaltending coach for the Chicago Blackhawks. I laugh because Lorne Mulligan tells the story. 99, 2000. Lorne's like, we didn't have a good team, so we had to brawl all the time. And Probert was on that team, Chicago. And Tretiak used to give Lorne hell in the coaches' meetings. He's like, Lorne, discipline. Lorne's like, well, we can't score. What the hell else are we going to do? Can't put you in net. Okay. Are these stories getting anybody excited for the tournament? Because it's getting me revved up, I'll tell you that.
Well, when you put the names out, the names really make me feel good. That's the big thing. And even recently, you say Shane Doan, but then, I say my era. That's Tony Amane. And you mentioned Brian Leach for the Americans, and Mario. Though that's my era, and those names just warm my heart, And I'm curious to see if we're going to have any new legends of international hockey, be born in the next week. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Okay. Gary in Winnipeg, who's named himself the Old Fart, which is fine. That's his name, not mine. He says, any memories of Don Cherry in the Canada Cup? I'm like, not from me. My earliest memory of these tournaments is Mike Keenan coaching Canada. I'm sorry. I'm guessing Cherry coached in 81. Did he? I don't even. Is it in here? Bear with me. 81. Well, they didn't win it. Oh, hang on. No. 81, it was Scotty Bowman. So I don't think Grapes coached any of these. In 1976, the Czechs won it, and the coach was Karl Guth. Literally, 76, Canada won it. Bobby Clark was the captain. Scotty Bowman was the coach. Yeah, Graves never coached this. Can we please stay on point? We had the fun question yesterday. Came up from Canadian Sasko, formerly known as Fake Gainer. He was like, who's going to be the MVP? He says Connor Hellebuck. And I'm like, well, if I think Canada's going to win it, and I'm going to be cheering for Canada, I can't say Hellebuck's going to be the MVP, so I'll say McDavid. You said somebody else. Do you remember who you said?
Yeah, I said Nate McKinnon, I think, will be the MVP for Canada.
Okay. Here's today's meme. Can you work on this when you go off the air? USA has more talent. Canada has the better team. That's from me.
How about that?
Because that says something, doesn't it? Like if you talk to any coach, which is also the world that I live in, we just don't bring it to air that often. If you talk to any coach that's coached both countries, which I have a lot of friends that have, Canada's all about team. USA's all about me. And that's just the way that's the difference in the people. I talk quite a bit about the difference between Canadians and Americans, and it's a huge difference. Canada is all about team, pulling together. USA is all about what's in it for me. Canada's becoming more like that. But maybe that's why the USA has only won this one time in 1996. We've gone this long, and I haven't even asked you who you think will win. I think Canada will win. Who do you legitimately think will win? BetMGM has Canada winning, by the way.
Yeah, I think Canada will win, too. I just think up front, Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, they're not going to let Canada lose. And a goaltending, yeah, we may get goalied, and that might be the only reason that we might not. But I think Canada will win this thing. I do.
For the benefit of John in Edmonton, who's written in 97 times today with the same comment, he said, Rod, the Elks signed Tyrell Ford. There you go. Said it. Congrats. Rich in Edmonton says, Nate, Connor, and Sid, hard not to bet on Canada. Right? Jeff, the Stamps fan, brings the Calgary portion perspective. He says the USA will win it for Johnny. Well, they're certainly going to try to. That's one of their mantras, their number one mantra there for Team USA. Trenton, Norway, writes in and says, Don Cherry didn't broadcast anything until 1996 either. CTV had the broadcast rights with Bernie Pascal, Ron Roche, and Tom Watt on the broadcast call.
How about that?
CBC got the World Cup of Hockey. Ron Roche, stud. You wouldn't have any. You would have never heard him, Darren. He was a stud. Ron Roche here at the Montreal Forum. Bomber Boy writes in from Calgary, and he says, disagree. Canada has higher-end skating talent. USA has better goalies and more depth. Can we not have a holy war here? Thank God the tournament's here, Darren, and they're going to at least now start playing the games. And they'll sort it out on the ice, right? About who's better?
Yeah. They will. They're going to sort it out on the ice, and we're going to find out this week.
Okay, man. You have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you too.
Mike Richards has been sitting in his basement drinking coffee all afternoon, getting ready for this appearance. He's coming up next. NFL, Four Nations face-off, whatever the heck is on his mind. Maybe CFL free agency, we'll see. We're live on Game Plus Television, streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
From cash spiels to Grand Slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Sports fans, join the Rod Squad newsletter today. Stay ahead of the game with exclusive insights, updates, contests, and exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up for free today at rodpedersen.com. Poll question is, what's your excitement level for the Four Nations face-off, which begins tonight, Canada versus Sweden in Montreal. Finland plays the USA Thursday. 39% of you saying average, 37% of you saying not at all, and only 24% saying high, very high excitement level for the Four Nations face-off. Mike Richards, the inimitable and iconic Mike Richards, what are you voting in that poll? He's not voting at all. He's abstaining. He's abstaining from voting. Hit refresh, the boys are telling me to tell you, Mike, and you can hear it. By the way, the photo that we put on our thumbnail promoting Mike Richards' appearance today, he really looks a lot like Donald Trump in the photo. I don't know if he's trying to. I don't know. But it was startling. Oh,
what about now? Is this? Can you hear me now?
Up. We got you. I got you. The build-up, the suspense. Finally. What's your answer? How you voting?
Yeah, I said I'm probably in that 30 to 40% range. I realize it's a dress rehearsal for what we're going to see. I do love international hockey. I think it's when guys, you know, they really bleed for their country, and they all do. We tend to think it's just our guys. No, they all do. I think when you go around the world, when you go to these tournaments, I think it was such a huge eye opener when I was in Ufa, Russia, covering the World Juniors, to see the people in the the Ural Mountains. That's right, I'm saying Ural Mountains. The way that it was very much like a, probably how junior hockey is in Western Canada. Like the food was all made by babushkas, these grandmothers. They were making like baked goods and stuff like that. Like it was, I was filling my face with Russian pastries, and there was an excitement. And I've never, I swear to God, and this is, I'm talking about the Sea of Red being in Calgary. I've never been in a building that was as loud as it was for those Russian players when they started doing that weird Russian chant they do, which translates to them just yelling "puck." I know, trust me, it's a it's a very strange, but the roof almost came off. It was really quite amazing. So international hockey, yeah, I love it. I'll wait and see. It's nice to see our best, but it's 4 teams. There's politics, of course, which we're just drowning in this world currently. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a distraction, but I understand why people are like, meh, half and half.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely fair. Tony in Cochrane, Alberta writes that he says the Summit Series featured Tretiak versus Tony Esposito in goal. That was amazing, for sure. BW in Edmonton says $20 on Finland to win it all. That's because they're the 4th favorite. He thinks he could win some money there. I get it. And we do have some breaking news. 2 items from the CFL. Rough Riders have signed free agent offensive lineman Sean McEwen, and the Calgary Stampeders have released Demario Houston, a guy that found himself in a legal scrape last week. Anyways, you wanted to come on, I felt like, talk a little NFL, little Super Bowl. What do you got for leftovers there?
A couple of things, looking at, just sort of pondering because of all the sports that we watch in this household. And, what I always find interesting, always have, and has always been my perspective, hosting shows is the current trend in a sport that finds success. So some people will say cyclical. I don't quite see it as cyclical in any sport, but there are certain trends that come into vogue only because of, look, it could be a bunch of different things. It could be the kind of athlete you could have. It could be, what sort of comes out of college. What kind of, version of the game are they seeing? So RPOs, as we saw, the Chip Kelly thing out of Oregon all those years ago, which we saw just basically, assimilate itself through all the rest of football. And what really, to me, stood out this year after that championship, and to me, what I believe to be the most important takeaway from it, it's not necessarily the players, it's the coaches. It's coaching. Now, my take always has been, along with my good friend Pierre Maguire, that coaching matters. And sometimes it's really, people say, wasn't that sort of obvious? No, it's not. Because when you take a look at what Philadelphia did with Sirianni and Vic Fangio, and these are the reasons that they won, because they beat a really good coach. Andy Reid is an outstanding coach, and he got out-coached in one of the biggest games. Now, again, I was on this show a couple of weeks ago saying I didn't think Kansas City would be at this game. I believed it was going to be the Buffalo Bills. The Bills got out-coached. I mean, and I'm sick of hearing about the referee thing. Look, I'm not much of a conspiracy guy, and I always think if you take care of business, 1 or 2 calls, it really wouldn't matter if you're putting the boots to somebody. I mean, make some bad calls. That's really what sportsmanship really was all about in its day. I play you, Rod, and all of a sudden we think some calls are going bad or whatever. Both you and I accept that part of the game, part of the sportsmanship is, yeah, they're going to mess up some calls. Some calls go your way, some go mine. I don't need 400 replays of the same thing to see if his toes in. If I'm taking care of business, none of those things matter. To me, the biggest thing and the takeaway in this is coaching. So when you take a look at what you have, if you're Sean McDermott, if you're in Buffalo, did you do a good enough job with the athletes that you had to beat that team? The answer is no. So I'm not going to take a look at, the Josh Allen. I thought that, again, all year they did a very good job in a very different way. But at the end of the day, coaching matters. That is certainly one takeaway. And the other is, if you don't have an elite quarterback, and people say, well, isn't that obvious? No, not always. Not every year. There are different ways in the NFL. There's different ways in the CFL that guys have won because of the athletes they have. You have an all-world guy, or you have an all-world defense, for instance. But Philadelphia had all of it, and they had a very elite quarterback. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about Jalen Hurts isn't exactly the most popular guy in the world, but the reality is a serviceable guy won't win you a championship anymore. Just having a good defense won't win anymore. And guess what? Lo and behold, I know it's 2025. Guess what? A running game. That's right, a running back. You put that all together with probably the best offensive line in football, and I got news for you. Championship.
Yeah, well, good luck with the Bills. I feel like you're sitting here wondering if they'll ever win, like Vikings fans, and right? I guess there's no answer
as I said,
to that.
I like Josh Allen. I'm not, being a degenerate gambler. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't. I probably deep down don't have a favorite team, but I just love football of all kinds. And when I say all kinds, I'm talking about high school football. I'm talking about U Sport. I'm talking about NCAA. My love for the CFL is pretty obvious. Growing up with it, it's like, Labor Day to me is a religious holiday. The Grey Cup is sacred in my family, but I also love the NFL. I don't pick and choose the kind of football I want. I love it all at all levels for all different reasons. I'm not going to sit here and cry over certain things. Like I get a CFL fan that it becomes very protectionist. Look, I do understand that. But at some point, we all got to grow up. We all got to get with, we have the game that we have and get behind it because it's still good football. But sometimes this sucks and this league is terrible. Yeah, there used to be a time where what I had said, the no fun league, absolutely, because that's the way it was. It was boring. It was smash mouth football. It was grinding out these running backs that they averaged 3.2 yards per carry, and I hated it. But not now, folks. So if we're looking at our own game here in Canada, we have to take a real serious look at what we do, how we play the game, and not point fingers other directions. This is our game. If you want to make it better, then we got to grow up a little bit.
And this is the time to do it. They're at a crossroads as they look for their next commissioner, and I hope that they get it right. Now, hang on. God, I admire you, Mike, as you know. And I was supposed to pass along a message to you. It was from Ron McLean. And he said, can you please tell Mike that Don Cherry's favorite impression of Mike Richards was of Don Cherry? Can you do a grapes for us? Do you have one in your bag of tricks down there?
Let me tell you something right now. People getting upset, and I don't want to say you people. I just say people, all right? So here we go. We got a great thing going on for countries. The best one, we know who it is, eh? You got Sid out there. Holy Christ, I think, what is he? He's 57 years old. He's still a beauty. He's still a good one. The only mistake I think they made and everything like that is, where's Dougie Gilmore? You need Dougie out there. He's a great guy. Kingston, Ontario. He's got everything. Tragically hip, too. Not bad, eh? A couple songs sucked. But otherwise, Kingston, great thing, and they need a couple of guys from Toronto, but don't get me started, eh? Just don't get me started.
Bingo! How about that?
Ooh, and that's not bad. Ladies and gentlemen, he had no idea I was going to bring that up. He had no idea. That's the talent of Mike Richards for you, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to go on before I ask more questions?
Well, the one thing I was going to talk about, because people will say, what about the Leafs? They start talking about, the NHL, and it was always, you're in Toronto, what about the Leafs? I said, look, I've had this conversation. It's like talking about the same movie for 10 years. The ending is always the same. And I thought, okay, for the obsession that it is, and we talked about trend in sports right off the top. What wins? Okay, so sport is by virtue of how it exists, the animal that it is basically copycat. What someone else does, what they find success in, you want to do the same thing. And so, okay, so let's go to the Stanley Cup champions, and you take a look at what's happening this year and just look at the metrics. Now, I'm not a huge analytics guy, but it does give you a story, at least a foundation of what you have. And so if I'm looking at the Florida Panthers and I go down the first 6, 7 guys, I take a look, it's plus minus, if you want to get into that, time on ice, blah, 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 goals scored. But the thing to me is, what is it about those players? And they're good players. I'm not saying it's the greatest alignment, greatest roster I've ever seen, but what they do have, and this is why they won, at least when I look at it, you just go down and take a look at the penalty minutes. Are they type of guys who will score and then turn around and maybe punch you in the face? My version of big boy hockey that starts in May and ends almost in July means that when I tussle with you, you're afraid that not only am I going to score on you, but I'm going to throw you through the glass. That intimidation, that's one trend that has never, ever, ever gone away in the National Hockey League. So if I'm looking at the Florida Panthers and I'm taking a look at the Leafs, right, the God's chosen team here in Ontario, and you take a look at those numbers, well, the guy who has the most goals and most points, 55 assists, is Mitch Marner. What does he have? What are his penalty minutes? Was he 1? Did he get a half a penalty? And people are like, well, he's not supposed to do that. But if you go down the top 6 or 7 compared to Florida, I got news for you. And I had a conversation the other day, actually, with a guy from an insurance company who was originally from Saskatchewan. He was working in Calgary now in the insurance business. He said, what do you think the biggest difference is between all of this? Because he was a Leaf fan. I said, well, if you watch the OHL and then you watch the dub, there's a huge difference. In Western Canada, there is just something that is very old school. If you want to call it Wild West, if you want to call it working with your hands, if you want to call it prairie living, if you want to call it river hockey, whatever the Sutters are, all those kinds of things that I saw, certainly when I followed the Calgary Hitmen, there is an ability for those kinds of individuals, those athletes, that they understand that they're not out there to do one thing. They're never the guy from out west to me never just decides I'm going to be a goal scorer. That just doesn't happen culturally in that part of the world. And the teams that are able to mix up, I can score on you, but I can beat you up. That is also the as I talk about sometimes at that time of year, I compare things to models of cars. Like, what is the car of the year? Well, if we're talking about the Stanley Cup, it's an SUV. Clearly, it's an SUV. It's not a convertible. It's not a Mitch Marner sports car with the top down in the summertime. It's got to go through snow, and it's got to have big tires, and it's got to have a chassis. And guess what? It also has to be fast. So it has to have all those kinds of things in order for you to win. Look at the Winnipeg Jets are an interesting, if you look at sort of by the numbers, because they're sort of a mix of what Florida does, but they've got a little that track meet in them from what the Leafs do. But the biggest caveat for the Winnipeg Jets is Hellebuck. At some point, you have to beat him. And an all-world goalie, which, by the way, was one of the trends beforehand that we all recognized in the National Hockey League. And I think it was Scott Taylor used to say, well, you have to call it playoffs because you can't call it goalie. Well, that is very, very true. Except now, that is a rarity, I would say, Rod. You need a consistent goalie. In fact, that might even be closer to the old Grant Fuhrer, which is you might let in 3 or 4 goals, but when it really counts, your guy makes the save. Because that's what Grant Fuhrer did. I forget about his goal against average. He didn't care what it was. It wasn't important. But they knew if Fuhrer had to make that save and then Gretzky and whoever else goes down the ice and scores a goal, that's what made the Oilers the Oilers. It's not that way necessarily today. Like, obviously, it's not the 80s. You don't need an all-world goalie. But Winnipeg has got this formula that looks kind of interesting. And you know what? They certainly, by my account, that you could be looking at a Stanley Cup in Winnipeg, which to me would be fantastic. It's not happening in Toronto. It's just simply not going to happen for the same reason we talk about certain football teams. I've said for a long time, I don't expect to see a national or a world championship in Dallas for the Cowboys the way that it's run. With Jerry, I just don't see the team ever being bigger than Jerry. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter who you bring in. You never have full reins of the team. If you don't have that, you also don't have the respect of the players. They'll take the paycheck, but you ain't winning. You're not winning.
How about that?
Kelly Kirsch was a Leaf fan?
Kelly Kirsch was not a Leaf fan. No, I don't believe the Rocket was a Leaf fan. No.
Just teasing you, man. Okay. Mike, that was awesome, brother. Thank you so much. You got the City TV thing going. What's the latest?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on that we have to deal with, and quite honestly, it ain't Calgary. Calgary's awesome. The people out there have done a marvelous job, and there's a lot of things that probably for me are happening in Calgary, but you got to get through Toronto. And guess what? They're a little lazy. Old Dave who sits in his office or whatever, who decides about time slots and those kinds of things, we have to deal with that. But I think we might have a little bit of a workaround for me. And do expect me to be on airwaves soon in a different way, maybe to start than I thought. But it something will be worked out. And I, again, am very excited about it. And it probably is going to be happening within less than 30 days. So probably by the next time I visit you, whatever's going to be starting at that point will definitely be going.
Good to hear. All right, Mike, let us know so we can pass it along. Thanks for the time today.
Thanks, brother. Always the best.
The iconic Mike Richards joining us from the GTA. It's just you and me the rest of the way, all right? Get the Progressive Insurance text line fired up and send us some notes, 902-518-3033, or the YouTube and Facebook chat. We'll be right back here on Game Plus TV, streaming live, as I just said, and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
From cash spiels to Grand Slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Okay, we are back at it. By the way, folks, transform your audience with powerful presentations from EMJ Marketing's elite speakers. Check out their website for more information at emjmarketing.com. Yeah, we do play hockey here. Not really hockey weather outside here, but it is in Canada, where tonight Canada and Sweden open up the Four Nations face-off. As a matter of fact, what are they saying on the Sports Wire? Jordan Bennington will be in net when Canada opens the Four Nations face-off against Sweden tonight in Montreal. Canadian coach John Cooper named the St. Louis Blues goaltender his starter over Vegas Golden Knights netminder Aiden Hill and Montreal Canadiens counterpart Sam Montembeault. Poll question today for the aforementioned EMJ Marketing is, what's your excitement level for Four Nations face-off? High, average, or not at all? And leading the way, average, 39%. That's the majority saying average, 37% saying not at all. I'm guessing that's the football fan crowd, and 24% saying very high. But coming out of NFL season, all the talk, all of what we've done, and we'll probably get to CFL free agency here before this show is out, and we're obviously big CFL fans, as you see what's adorned our studio here, but I'm ready for some hockey. My hockey fans are my hockey fan friends have been revved up about this for a very long time. Bragging rights are on the line. It's just going to be fantastic, as John Frenzy would say. Milling about here on the sports update, the Toronto Raptors entertain the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight in NBA play. Toronto comes off a 106-103 win in Philadelphia last night. The Raps are missing injured starters R.J. Barrett and Jakob Poeltl, while newly acquired Brandon Ingram is also out with a sprained ankle. For those football fans, 7 years after Doug Pedersen and Nick Foles delivered Philadelphia its first Super Bowl title, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts did it again with a 40-22 win over Kansas City in Super Bowl 59. Winning multiple titles in that short a time period is far from rare in the NFL, with the league often dominated by transcendent coach-quarterback combinations. Doing so with different people in those key positions is extremely unusual, though. Only two other teams have won multiple Super Bowls in a span of 8 seasons with a different coach and different quarterback in both wins. So what the Eagles did on Sunday night was not only highly unusual, but extremely impressive. I'm not sure I'm ready for this, but I'm going to read it anyways. The Los Angeles Dodgers went through a light workout, and most of the usual superstars were out on the field, including NL MVP Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts. It's been a short offseason for the franchise. The Dodgers hoisted the World Series trophy barely 3 months ago after beating the New York Yankees in 5 games. LA is trying to become the first team to win back-to-back World Series since the New York Yankees won 3 in a row from 98 to 2000. The team's ownership opened up its pocketbook during the offseason to add talent, including two-time All-Star Blake Snell, Japanese pitcher Roki Sasaki, and relievers Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. It's funny, by the way, it's a lot of fun here in Florida with the gang, our gang of friends. That Yankee three-peat in the late 90s, Joe Girardi. I see him almost every day in the gym. Did not see him this morning for whatever reason. Must have had something else on. But he's ducking me now. He's ducking me. He doesn't want to come on the show. He particularly doesn't want to come on our Panthers show. I'll never forget the day when I asked him, I'm like, hey, Joe, if you don't mind, our viewers are dying to have you on. And he was like, I don't know anything about hockey. I'm like, they don't care. I'll get back to you. He hasn't got back to me. It's okay. I'm just putting it out there. I put it in my 10 weekend things column here a while back. I said that when I was doing radio sales, which I hated, I was terrible at it. So I hated asking people for money. I said, I'll never be afraid to ask somebody for an interview, because what's the worst? It's 10 minutes of breath out of your body. Not asking for money. But Joe just too nervous. And I kind of got a kick out of that. 3 World Series as a player, as a catcher, 1 World Series title as a manager. He didn't want to come on the hockey show. He's a nice guy. What I'm saying is, nerves are nerves. The sports update is brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. Get more of what you love with their rewards program, Landmark Extras, free movies and concession items, invitations to exclusive screenings, special events, and more. There are 3 rewarding programs to choose from that get you something extra with every movie purchase you make. Check out landmarkcinemas.com to register for free today. All right, there is our sports update for you. When we come back, I'll do you a solid, and it's all viewer takeover, whatever you would like to talk about. Just to refresh, we've been talking about the Four Nations face-off opening tonight in Montreal, Canada versus Sweden, Super Bowl leftovers, CFL free agency wrap, NBA, Major League Baseball. Maybe there's something totally unrelated to that you would like to discuss. Progressive Insurance text lines open 902-518-3033. Hit it up. We'll be right back here on Game Plus TV for overtime. Streaming live, and of course, podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.
From cash spiels to Grand Slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Okay. It's overtime. Guilty as charged. Hang on while we're at it. Up your game, and achieve your hockey goals at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. I came up with that. I could come up with new marketing slogans every day. Theirs officially is where skill and fun collide. But I'm telling you that hockey's for everyone, and you can achieve your hockey goals at Overtime Hockey Lanes. Randy and Michelle watch daily when they're not busy hosting teams from all over Western Canada, to be honest. But they're in Calgary. Stop in and check them out, 28th Street, Northeast, Calgary. Interesting. Mark is watching in, where are you, Mark? He's in Burlington, Ontario. He says, did Mike do Charlton Heston? He's talking about Mike's impressions. No, he only did Don Cherry, and that's because I asked him for it. And it was really good, right off the cuff. Mike Richards, you know, when we were asking for the Mount Rushmore of Canadian, well, no, not just Canadian, Mount Rushmore of all sports radio talk hosts or sports talk hosts, could be TV now, radio, whatever. A lot of people put Mike on there. And just off the cuff, he did a Don Cherry about 60 seconds of what Grapes would think about the Four Nations face-off, and it was amazing. Herb is watching in Melville. He says, I totally agree with Mike Richards about, he said there's no I in team. And that's why Winnipeg is a good working team. Will they be Canada's team come this spring? I don't know if they're the last team from Canada left. Yeah. I hope for their sake that they're not the NHL's version of the Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings that have never won. Got to tune in to find out. Ron in Calgary writes us from the 403. He says, I'm 30% in on the Four Nations until I see the first game. Is it going to be all-star play or Olympic play? And I've been mentioning that the last couple of days. That's what I am looking forward to the most tonight. I was listening to NHL radio this morning. Mike Johnson was on there, Gord Stellick. Their question was, what are you looking for? What are you looking for tonight? I'm looking to see who's into this the most, who comes out the best, who scores first, who registers the first shot on goal, who lays the first big hit. And then that will set the tone for what this tournament's going to be. I think it's going to be great. From here, I'll be going to host the Cats and Bolts podcast here in South Florida, where we talk about the Panthers and the Lightning. It's a Florida NHL show. And we're going to be talking about all these things. This is the 9th. For those that, I know, there's never been a Four Nations face-off before. So many people don't know what it is. It's not the NHL's fault. I think if they called it the Canada Cup, nobody outside Canada would care. And they're probably right. They can't call it the World Cup because they don't have teams from all over the world like they used to. So they've settled on Four Nations: Canada, USA, Sweden, Finland. But the history of the tournament is amazing. And we've gone through it at length today. I'm not going to go through it here now. It's awesome. Laverne in Swift Current writes in, and he says, the Scotties Tournament of Hearts opens this Friday in Thunder Bay, Ontario, for all you curling fans out there. Thank you, Laverne. Consider them all served. I will say this. I'm sure there's a lot of CFL fans that have hung in to this point. We've talked about this morning in our morning meeting. Where are you on where the Canadian Football League is with its free agency situation? Mike Richards addressed it briefly. Just his love for the league is unquestioned, as is mine. Mike Richards and I don't need to prove anything with regards to how much we love the CFL. I'm going to read from an article here that's posted to rodpeterson.com. Micah Awe is back where it all began. The veteran linebacker signed a 2-year deal with BC on Tuesday, the first day of CFL free agency. He's not the only free agent acquisition making a return to BC. Among the 8 players signed by the Lions were linebacker Adam Konar, defensive lineman David Foku. Both Canadians reached 1-year deals. BC also signed American quarterback Jeremiah Masoli to a 1-year deal. He's 36 years of age. He spent the last 3 years in Ottawa. Calgary shored up its defense by signing defensive backs Damon Webb and Adrian Green, as well as linebackers Derek Moncrief and Fraser Sopik. Derek Moncrief is a personal friend of ours on this show. He's been on the show when we were in the bunker, former LA Ram linebacker. Jeshurun Antwi, a Calgary product, is signed with the Stampeders. Toronto Argonauts kept largely all their guys. Cameron Dukes, Kadeem Carey. I saw Saskatchewan officially adding backup quarterback Tommy Stevens, Canadian offensive lineman Philippe Gagnon. But I saw people saying this was the most boring free agency in the Canadian Football League in 15 years. People poo-pooing the lack of media coverage around it. I'm just wondering what you all think about what went down in the last 24 hours in the Canadian Football League. Colton San Diego writes in and says, thoughts on my Montreal Alouettes signing Sean Oakman? We really haven't made a splash in this free agency. Sean Oakman's a bad boy. Baylor, right? What do I think about it? Bingo. Good for him. Good for them. He's a good player. Tad in Red Deer says, great show, Rod. Mike Richards has to be your easiest interview. No, Jim Barker is. And probably the Motor City Madmouth, Scott Morganroth. The thing with Mike Richards is I never really know. He's like Rod Black. We're hosts. And he's a host. So it's kind of hard. Barker's a guest. I know that's hard, but you're a smart guy, Ted. You know what I'm saying. Mike, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. Jim Barker, ask 3 questions at the most, and the segment's filled. It's easy. Mike Richards, you never know where he's. You just never know. Jim Barker's easy. Ask a couple questions, put your feet up, and away you go. Jordan in Calgary says, yeah, I was with Mackenzie Weegar being snubbed. Let's stop worrying about who's not there. Let's cheer who is and talk it all here noon tomorrow.
That Facebook Live comment is contractually binding, just so you know.
How about that?